After I went bankrupt, the friends who had stood by me for years suddenly cut all ties. That same night, my cousin's family went to the ancestral land behind our village, dug up my parents' remains, and heartlessly tossed them by the roadside. I reached out to my old business partners, the ones I'd worked with for years, hoping for a loan. In response, they tossed 200 yuans at my feet like I was nothing. Even Christiana, my girlfriend of 8 years, left me. She turned her back on me and into someone else's arms. To humiliate me, she even invited me to her wedding. During the ceremony, in front of a crowd, she stood tall, took the microphone, and said, "Benjamin, I'm pregnant. Unfortunately, the child in my womb isn't yours, it's Duncan's." The atmosphere went dead silent. Every eye turned toward me. I stood up, smiled faintly, and said, "I know. This is what I want. I want the whole world to abandon me." Chapter 1. On the day my friend's business collapsed, crushed by a 10-year crisis, he sat with me at a barbecue stall that night and broke down, crying like a child. He cursed the world, and I did my best to comfort him, telling him that in the end, there are still kind and loyal people out there. But the very next day, I went bankrupt. That night, as the news spread, I got a call from my childhood friend. I found out my cousin's family had dug up my parents' remains. Furious, I drove back to my hometown that same night, Christiana, my girlfriend of 8 years, by my side. The Liu family's ancestral land. My cousin's family had actually dug up my parents' coffins and tossed them aside like trash. I was trembling with rage. I pointed at my cousin and shouted, "What are you doing?" Over the years, this same cousin had gotten rich through my company. Even when he embezzled funds to buy a house and car for his wife, I turned a blind eye. And now, there he was with his wife, smirking as they stood beside my parents' exposed remains. He sneered and said coldly, "Benjamin, this is my family's ancestral land. I'll bury whoever I want here." I smiled bitterly. "You're just taking advantage of my bankruptcy, aren't you? You see I've got no money, so you're kicking me while I'm down." Christiana stood there silently, her eyes full of complex emotions. Then my cousin's wife jumped in mockingly. "Benjamin, don't think we don't know you're bankrupt. I heard you owe the bank more than 2 billion. Better you die alone than us having to bury you along with your parents." I stared at them in disbelief. I never imagined that the first people to repay my kindness with hatred would be my own cousin's family, people I once considered close. My eyes bloodshot, I shouted, "If anyone dares to touch my parents' remains tonight, I'll fight to the death." But my cousin's parents came forward with hoes and beat me until blood ran down my head. Then, in a fit of rage, my cousin picked up a curved knife and started hacking at my parents' coffins. Outnumbered and overpowered, I was beaten senseless by my own family, bloodied and broken. Later that night, I dragged my battered body to the home of my childhood friend, hoping they'd help me find a place to bury my parents. But the moment they heard I'd gone bankrupt, their attitude turned cold and distant. I went door to door throughout the village, begging for help, only to be rejected over and over again. In the end, it was Tom, someone who had a past dispute with my family, who took pity on me. Together with the help of a few others, we carried my parents to his family's ancestral land and buried them hastily. That night, I sat in my car, staring blankly, the pain inside me so deep it felt like my insides were being torn apart. Christiana, who was 3 months pregnant, sat silently beside me. She didn't offer a single word of comfort. After a long silence, she finally asked in a hesitant, complicated tone, "Benjamin, did you go bankrupt?" I didn't hide the truth. I nodded. "Yes, but it will get better." Chapter 2. I was terrified that Christiana would leave me. Trembling, I grabbed her hand. "Christiana, I'll borrow money. I'll make a comeback. Please, don't abandon me, okay?" My eyes were bloodshot. I had been humbled to my very core, but Christiana pulled her hand away coldly. "I'm tired. Call me when you're in the city." During the drive back, I forced myself to joke, trying to make her laugh, to lift the mood, despite the bruises all over my body. But all I got in return was her annoyance. "Benjamin," she snapped, "are you ever not annoying? I just want to sleep. You sound like a nagging old woman. And by the way, your jokes aren't funny at all." I stopped the car, took her hand again, and apologized over and over. "I'm sorry, Christiana. I'm just afraid. After going bankrupt, I'm scared you'll leave me. Please don't be angry, okay? I'm really scared. I've lost everything. If you leave me too, I won't be able to handle it." but she said nothing. From beginning to end, from the beatings by my cousin's family to the burial, I had been broken and humiliated. And Christiana hadn't said a single word of comfort. When we returned to the city early the next morning, Christiana stepped out of the car with a cold expression. She turned to leave, heels clicking on the pavement, but just before she reached her door, she glanced back at me. "Benjamin, tonight you really lost your dignity." I hadn't slept in over 24 hours. I spent the whole day calling every friend I knew, but once they heard I was bankrupt, those friends who used to admire me changed overnight. By the end of the day, I realized something heartbreaking. Not a single one of them was willing to lend me a cent. As a last resort, I went to a bar where one of my business partners often took care of me. When he saw me, he sneered, "Oh, isn't this Mr. Liu, our great chairman? What wind blew you here?" Laughter echoed around me. I wanted to disappear on the spot. "Mr. Liu," Martin mocked, "you came here tonight to borrow money?" I nodded slightly, avoiding his eyes. Martin opened 2 bottles of whiskey and said, "Drink both of these in one go, and maybe I'll consider lending you some." Without hesitation, I did it. I drank both bottles. He laughed cruelly, took 200 yuans from his wallet, and threw it at my feet. "Mr. Liu, no need to borrow. Here's 200 yuan, don't starve to death." I bit my lip, stared at the money on the ground, and walked away, utterly broken. I remembered when Martin was just a struggling business owner. To please me, he once drank himself into the hospital. I even helped him financially when he was on the brink of collapse. We used to call each other brother. Looking back, all those comforting words I once gave him now felt like a cruel joke. Everyone had abandoned me. I sold my house, sold my car, and now wandered the streets, homeless. After drinking the whiskey, I collapsed beside a flower bed. With the last of my strength, I called Christiana. "Christiana, I have nowhere to go. Can I stay at your place for a few nights?" There was a long silence. Just when I thought the silence would kill me, Christiana said coldly, "Benjamin, let's break up. Being with you is exhausting. You can't give me the life I want." Before I could respond, she hung up. I rushed to her house and pleaded with all my heart. When she opened the door, I dropped to my knees. "Christiana, please, please don't leave me. I have nothing without you. I love you. I really love you so much. I swear I'll pull through. Just give me a few years. I'll give you the life you've always dreamed of." I clung to her legs, no pride left as a man humble as dirt, crying uncontrollably. Chapter 3. In just a few days, half my hair had turned gray. "Christiana, all these years, I bought you handbags worth hundreds of thousands, watches worth tens of thousands, sports cars, villas. I know you still have all of them. If you sell even a few of those, can you lend me the money? Just until I get back on my feet. 8 years. 8 whole years. Everyone else can treat me like garbage. I can take it, but not you. You're the one person I gave everything to." Christiana looked down at me with disdain, crossing her arms. "Benjamin," she scoffed, "those things were gifts. You gave them to me willingly. They're mine now. Why should I sell them just to gamble on some uncertain future with you? I wasted my 8 years of youth on you," Christiana said bitterly. "Please, let me go, okay?" The argument outside had gotten so loud that Christiana's parents came out to see what was happening, and with them came a man, Duncan, Christiana's first love. The moment I saw Duncan, it was like a lightning bolt. My body froze. "Liu," her father growled, "my daughter's already broken up with you. If you dare harass her again, I'll break your legs. Right now, you're worse than a dog." This man, who once used to greet me politely with a smile, now held a kitchen knife in his hand, cursing at me with no shame. Panicked, I stammered, "Sir, even the villa you're living in right now was bought by me. Are you saying now you won't even help me up from this?" Christiana's father snorted coldly. "The property deed is in my daughter's name. If you think we'll sell the house, you're dreaming." Then her mother, without warning, started hitting me with a broom, driving me away like trash. Duncan stood nearby, watching, his face lit with amusement. His family had money, his parents ran a business, and they drove around in a Mercedes SUV. Tonight, he looked down at me and sneered. "Oh, by the way," he added smugly, "I forgot to tell you. In 2 weeks, I'm marrying Christiana." In that moment, everything became clear. Christiana. She had been secretly in contact with Duncan all along, and now, standing in front of me, she watched coldly, without a trace of compassion, only disgust. "Benjamin," she said sharply, "tonight you're just like a dog. Thank God my daughter left you, her father added, his words cutting deeper than any blade. He showed me no mercy, only mockery and disdain. In front of everyone, I was humiliated like I was less than nothing. I trembled all over, unable to speak, feeling the weight of the world collapse around me. I kneeled there helpless and abandoned. 8 years. I'd spent nearly 10 million on this family. I had practically handed my entire life over to Christiana, but all I got in return was this. So what if it's money? I said, trembling. Even without it, life still goes on. Christiana suddenly slapped me hard across the face. She yelled, her voice sharp and cold. Benjamin, can you stop embarrassing me? I don't love you anymore. The life I want Duncan can give me. You can't. You can't even afford a meal now. What do you want me to support you for? The rest of your life? In the end, her parents kicked me out from their doorstep like I was garbage. I had only 50 yuan left in my pocket. I tried calling everyone in my contact list, but to my heartbreak, not even one of them could lend me 500 yuan. In the days that followed, everything from my company was taken away, every piece of office equipment. The debt collection calls never stopped, not even for a second, and just as Duncan had said, 2 weeks later, he married Christiana. To rub salt in the wound, Duncan even had the nerve to send me a photo of the wedding invitation just to humiliate me. The ceremony cost his family over 2 million yuan. Still not giving up, I went to the hotel where the reception was being held. I loved Christiana. Even then, I still clung to the last shred of hope. As soon as I entered the banquet hall, countless eyes turned toward me. Isn't that the bankrupt Mr. Liu? Who gave him the courage to show up here, watching his girlfriend of 8 years marry someone else? That's gotta sting. The murmurs around me hit like waves crashing down, but I ignored them all. Chapter 4. I walked straight to the stage. Amidst the noise and the shocked gasps, I reached out and grabbed Christiana's hand. Christiana, come with me. To my shock, Christiana forcefully pulled her hand away and, right there in front of all the guests, slapped me hard across the face. With a sneer, she mocked me. Benjamin, who do you think you are? A penniless man like you is worse than a dog. You really think you can ruin someone else's wedding? Laughter burst out from the crowd below. The jeers got louder. Mr. Liu, stop humiliating yourself. Do you even know your place? Trying to steal someone's bride, what a joke. Christiana's parents stormed onto the stage, punching and kicking me without holding back. Her mother sneered down at me. Benjamin, have you even looked at yourself in the mirror? And then Christiana looked at me again, her voice thick with scorn. I forgot to tell you something, she said. I'm pregnant, but the baby's not yours. It's Duncan's. Those words shattered me. My mind went completely blank. I stumbled back, nearly falling. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and slowly reopened them. A bitter smile crept across my face. When I had money, the whole world revolved around me. But now that I'm broke, I'm lower than a dog. In your eyes, my cousin's family dug up my parents' bodies. All my friends left me. Even the woman I loved for 8 years didn't hesitate to betray me. The crowd fell into a heavy silence. I couldn't stop the tears from falling. They streamed from my eyes, each one burning with grief. My heart felt like it had turned to ash. Get off the stage. Liu, Christiana's mother said harshly, you're just clinging to my daughter for her money, aren't you? She opened her wallet and threw 1,000 yuan at me like I was a beggar. I didn't even look at the money on the floor. Instead, I looked straight at Christiana and asked, so, was our love really built on money? She gave me a mocking smile. Do you even have a penny left? I laughed bitterly, glancing at the crowd. Then I spoke softly. Christiana, actually, I haven't gone bankrupt. She didn't even flinch. Instead, her mocking smile grew wider. Benjamin, she scoffed, don't tell me this is some kind of trick to win me back. You've lost everything, your company, your cars, your house. What face do you have left to stand here? What are you waiting for? Get out. She began shouting for security, and down below, the guests began to chatter again. I think Benjamin's lost his mind. Hey, does he even know how pathetic he looks? Trying to steal someone's bride. Chapter 5. Before I could even walk out of the hotel, I saw my cousin's family rushing in, dusty, tired, furious. The moment they saw me, my cousin's wife shrieked, see? I knew it! Christiana's getting married today, and I knew Benjamin would show up. My cousin charged toward me, grabbed me by the collar, and growled, Liu, don't think this ends just because your company went under. I still own 5%. of the company shares. At its peak, that was worth over 20 million. Handed over, under the judgmental stares of everyone, I looked at my cousin and said calmly, "When I started, your family was drowning in over 2 million in gambling debts. I paid it all off. Your parents brought you to me, kneeling outside my company, begging for a job. I gave you that chance, that 5%. I gave it to you freely. You embezzled funds, lived recklessly, bought a house and car for your wife, and I covered your mess." Then I turned to Christiana's family. My voice rose. "For 8 years, I bought you bags, watches, luxury cars, villas. And what did I get in return?" My cousin's mother sneered. "That was your choice, wasn't it? Benjamin, you're just an idiot. You've got no one to blame but yourself." My cousin punched me in the face, sending me to the floor. He pinned me down, his foot crushing my face, while his parents held my arms and legs. He kept shouting, "Benjamin, my 5% is worth 20 million. Don't try to cheat me. Don't think I don't know where you buried your parents. If you don't give me the money, I'll go back and dig up their bones, feed them to the dogs." His parents laughed cruelly. Christiana stood nearby, arms crossed, clearly satisfied by the scene. My cousin's mother chimed in, "Why don't we just strip him of everything he owns and sell it off to cover the debt? Debt should be paid. It's only right." I fought to get free, but I couldn't. My cousin's foot pressed harder into my face. Then Duncan chuckled. "Even if you beat him to death, he doesn't have a cent left." My cousin laughed. "If he can't pay, then let's see him crawl." "Benjamin," he said, "if you crawl between my legs right here, in front of everyone, I'll let you go." That was it. I snapped. I broke free and punched him in the face, but before I could land another, he knocked me down again, blood gushing from my head. The blow was brutal. I curled up on the floor, covering my head as his wife and parents joined in, and just like that, I was left lying in a pool of blood, on the brink of death. Christiana coldly said, "Drag him out. Don't dirty up my wedding." Reception. I was thrown into a car and dumped in front of the hospital. Nurses rushed to carry me inside, my face mangled, nearly disfigured. I stayed in the hospital for several days. During that time, I saw photos of Christiana and Duncan's honeymoon all over social media. In those pictures, she looked sweet and happy, leaning against Duncan's chest. On her wrist was the watch I had bought for her, worth hundreds of thousands. Not a single person came to visit me during my entire stay in the hospital. Chapter 6. A week later, I finally managed to get discharged. The opening ceremony for Moon Group was about to begin. Ignoring my still healing injuries, I dressed in a suit, hailed a taxi, and headed over early. As soon as I arrived at the entrance, I saw 5 brand new Bentleys parked outside. To my surprise, I ran into Christiana's family and many of my former business partners. Even my cousin's family had entered the venue, mingling with business owners they'd gotten to know over the years. Inside the dazzling venue, the place was already packed. When Christiana saw me, her face first showed confusion, then quickly twisted into a disdainful sneer. "Benjamin, what are you doing here?" Duncan, my cousin, and his parents turned around when they heard her voice. I spread my arms and smiled. "I'm here for the opening ceremony of Moon Group." Strangely, I didn't feel any anger toward Christiana anymore. Looking at her, I wasn't furious or heartbroken. I felt nothing at all. Duncan shook his head and laughed. "Benjamin, you know today's the opening of Moon Group, right? Do you really think you're still the old Lou, the CEO? If you knew it was Moon Group, you should have known it's not a place for a beggar like you." My cousin's mother chimed in. "I think this Lou guy is so broke he can't even afford a meal. Who knows where he heard the news and came here to scam some food and drinks." As she spoke, she raised her voice, shouting, "Attention all the bosses." Her words instantly drew the attention of everyone in the room. The crowd at Moon Group's opening ceremony turned to look at me. My cousin's mother pointed at me with a sneer. "Be careful of this beggar. His name is Benjamin. His company has gone bankrupt, and he's so poor he can barely eat. He snuck in here to steal food. Keep an eye on your valuables. Don't let this beggar take them while you're distracted." With that, my cousin's family also turned their attention to me. At that moment, I felt like I was the center of everyone's gaze. My cousin walked over and laughed. "Benjamin, I didn't expect you to be so tough managing to get out of the hospital after just over a week. You didn't sneak in here to steal something, did you?" The commotion caught the attention of the hostess. She came over and asked to check my invitation. I shook my head. "I don't need an invitation to be here." Christiana, who had been watching the whole scene unfold, couldn't hold herself back any longer. She looked at me and mocked, "Benjamin, in a place like this, you don't even count as a fart. Who do you think you are, the boss of Moon Group? And you say you don't need an invitation?" Amid the laughter and mockery from the crowd, I casually nodded and smiled. "You're right. I am the boss of Moon Group." Christiana rolled her eyes. "Benjamin, I think you've really lost it. Good thing I broke up with you back then." My cousin laughed loudly. "Lou, if you're the boss here, then I must be Jesus. Don't put a pig's nose through a leak pretending to be an elephant." I ignored their insults. I wasn't bothered by them anymore. They could say and do whatever they wanted, but one day, I would get back at them tenfold. Or even 100-fold. I reached out and, under my cousin's astonished gaze, slapped him across the face. "Pablo, you'll regret this soon enough," my cousin's wife sneered. "Lou, I think you should leave now. You're not in a place where you can act up like this. Moon Group is a key focus of the city, and if anything goes wrong, you won't be able to handle the consequences. Where are the security guards? Get this beggar out of here." The room fell silent. Even my former business partners were strange smiles. Before anyone could say another word, a woman in a sexy outfit took the microphone and walked up to the stage. Everyone knew the opening ceremony of Moon Group was about to start. I found a seat and sat down casually. The woman on stage began talking about the future development and grand vision of Moon Group. She spoke quickly and efficiently. Then she addressed the crowd. "Next, let's invite our Moon Group's chairman to give a speech." At that moment, I slowly stood up and began walking toward the stage. Chapter 7. As I walked past Christiana, she froze for a moment. "Benjamin, the chairman of Moon Group is called that, not you." On the other side, my cousin's family and several of my former business partners all looked at me. I ignored them, turned to Christiana, and smiled. "I told you I am the chairman of Moon Group. Don't you know Moon Group is a restructured company? Which means we broke up the old group, integrated resources, and created something much larger. But someone like you, who only cares about money, wouldn't understand." As I walked toward the stage, several senior company executives seated closest to the podium stood up one by one. They nodded and greeted me. "Chairman Lou. Chairman Lou." More and more people stood and acknowledged me as I walked by. Step by step, I made my way to the stage, took the microphone from my secretary, and looked down at Christiana's family and my cousin's family, their faces pale. I didn't offer any polite pleasantries. Instead, I spoke calmly. "Today, during the opening ceremony of Moon Group, I have a few announcements to make. First, as the chairman of Moon Group, I am announcing that from now on, we will be suspending all business collaborations with former clients. Second, I will unite with like-minded friends to target Duncan's family business. Third, the entire legal department of Moon Group will do everything in its power to sue Pablo for embezzlement and illegal appropriation of company funds at his previous company. Fourth, I will recover every cent I spent over the past 8 years on my ex-girlfriend." With every word I spoke, Christiana's face grew paler. As for my cousin, he was already slumped to the ground, his face ashen. I stood on the stage, smiling at him. The amount of embezzled funds he had stolen was enough to put him in prison for life. Though I had personally covered those debts, I'd kept all the evidence close to me. After finishing my statements, I looked back at Christiana. "I've never gone bankrupt. In fact, my business is expanding more and more. I've built it into a large group." I handed the microphone back to the senior executives and turned to leave the stage, but before I could reach the elevator, Christiana and my cousin's family rushed toward me. Christiana grabbed my arm, emotional and frantic. "Benjamin, if you weren't bankrupt, why did you lie to me?" I shrugged and smiled. "When did I ever say I went bankrupt? The company simply restructured and needed a larger space. You mistook it for bankruptcy. Since you thought I was bankrupt, I just went along with your idea and pretended to be. If I hadn't, would I have been able to see your true colors?" Christiana panicked. She gripped my hand tightly. "I'm sorry, Benjamin. I didn't mean to. It's my parents. After they found out you were bankrupt, they kept pressuring me to break up with you." She turned and shouted at my cousins. "Parents, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have broken up with Benjamin." In a fit of anger, Christiana pushed her mother-in-law to the ground. "You two old fools. Why did you force me to marry Duncan? It's all your fault." Christiana quickly knelt in front of me, begging, "Benjamin, please, forgive me. Give me another chance. Please. If it weren't for my parents, I would never have broken up with you." I kicked Christiana away and looked at her coldly. Christiana, have I ever given you a chance? Do you know that night when I kneeled in front of you and begged you not to leave? I was giving myself one last bit of hope. Christiana, we'll see each other in court. Everything your family has spent of mine over these years, I'll take back every single cent. My cousin and his wife were blocking the elevator doors. He was already pale with fear. Chapter 8. My cousin's wife and his parents grabbed at my arms, pleading with me not to call the police. I slapped my cousin's wife across the face and said, coldly, I've already been more than generous to your family. I can forgive anyone but not your family. It was like something clicked in her mind. She quickly said, Benjamin, don't forget my husband still has 5% of the shares in your company. I smiled. 5% of the shares? We're in the old company. What does that have to do with the current Moon Group? Besides, have you even looked at the contract? There's a clause that says the shares were given to you for free, but if I ever change my mind, I can buy them back for $1 at any time. You can't refuse. You fools didn't read it carefully. You just heard I was giving you shares and eagerly signed your names without thinking. My cousin's family was completely hopeless now. His parents began cursing at me. Benjamin, Pablo is your cousin. We're family. I laughed in anger. Pointing at the two old people, I shouted, family? When I went bankrupt that night, you dug up my parents' bones from the Liu family's ancestral land. The 5 of you beat me until my head was bleeding. And at Christiana's wedding, you tortured me to the brink of death. Did you treat me like family then? I crouched down and slapped my cousin's face. Pablo, with the more than 10 million you embezzled, you'll be doing hard labor in prison for many years. Trash. Even if I lose everything, I'll make sure your whole family never finds peace. I turned to leave, but Christiana grabbed my foot. Benjamin, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Christiana was crying uncontrollably. I'll get an abortion and divorce Duncan. If you're willing to forgive me, I'll sever ties with my parents right now. I smiled at her. Christiana, you're just a woman who lifts others up only to step on them. Now that you've come crawling back to me, I don't even want to look at you. I can't imagine a woman more worthless than you. Get ready to sell your house and car. I kicked Christiana off and turned to walk into the elevator. No sooner had I left, the police arrived and took my cousin Pablo away. As for the house and car, I sold them. I wanted to buy a bigger villa and upgrade to a more luxurious car brand. Chapter 9. After the bankruptcy, I saw human nature for what it truly was. In front of a Bentley, I ran into the friend who had failed in that business investment with me. He looked at my nearly gray hair and smiled. Looks like you've been through more than I have these days, he said. Benjamin, did I win the bet? I nodded slightly. You won, my friend sighed. Our bet turned out to be meaningless. I shook my head. No, to me, it was very meaningful. You showed me human nature. I only came up with the idea on a whim while the company was restructuring, but I ended up losing terribly. If it weren't for that impromptu bet between us, I wouldn't have pretended to go bankrupt. I wouldn't have seen people's true colors, how they'd been lurking around me, shamelessly draining me dry. The next day, my cousin's wife and his parents found my newly bought villa. They knelt at the door, begging me to let Pablo off the hook. They looked remorseful, crying and pleading. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window on the second floor, watching with interest. When I no longer had any use for you, you didn't even have the right to see me. My heart had grown colder, more merciless. After I had watched enough of their miserable state, I called property management and had security escort those pests out of the villa community. My company's legal department was efficient. Almost the day after Pablo was arrested, they presented all the evidence of his embezzlement. Because the evidence was so complete, the collection process was skipped entirely. After being detained for 5 or 6 days, my cousin was handed over to the court for prosecution. Pablo had embezzled 12 million. It was a large amount with serious consequences. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison with no chance of appeal, and all his illegal earnings were ordered to be recovered. If he couldn't pay it back, he'd have to sell his house and cars. It all happened too quickly for him to transfer any assets. The court seized all the cash and real estate under his name. As for Christiana's family, well, Christiana, trying desperately to win me back, severed ties with her parents. They didn't show up, but she came and sat at the entrance of my new villa every day. And no matter how many times I tried to drive her away, she stayed. I blocked her number and deleted her from WeChat. Still, she kept shouting in front of my villa, "Benjamin, I was wrong. I shouldn't have listened to my parents and broken up with you. We've been together for 8 years. Can you really just abandon me?" I couldn't take it anymore. I opened the villa door. Christiana rushed forward, trying to push past me into the house. But I stopped her with my hand. "Christiana, how did I never realize how thick your skin is?" I said coldly. "What status do you think you have that you deserve to step foot in this villa?" She grabbed my hand, refusing to let go. "Benjamin, give me a chance to make things right," she begged. "I'll compensate you double. I've had an abortion. I've severed ties with my parents. If you don't want me, I'll be homeless. Do you really have the heart to let me freeze to death on the street?" I shook her off and sneered, "Your life or death has nothing to do with me. Christiana, you really are a two-faced slave. Right now, you don't even deserve to stand in front of me and say a word. Pablo's already been sent to prison now. It's your turn." Christiana's face went pale with despair. I pulled out my phone and called the police, reporting that a woman with ill intentions had been loitering in front of my house every day. I said I suspected she was casing the place, waiting for an opportunity to rob me. The police came and took Christiana away. Her prosecution proceeded as planned. Every large sum of money I had transferred to her. The bags, the watches were all given with the intent of marriage. Even though there was no written agreement, the court would support it. It took me several days to organize all the gifts I had given Christiana over the past 8 years. The total came to more than 30 million, including the villa she now lived in, which I had bought for 15 million. The 4 or 5 luxury cars under her name were worth over 10 million, over 30 million, and not once did Christiana contribute a penny when I pretended to go bankrupt. Despite that, she still had the audacity to kneel in front of her house and beg. The court quickly scheduled a trial for Christiana. As the plaintiff, I presented all the records of the large transfers to Christiana, receipts for the luxury items, bags, watches, cars, and the villa. It was a thick stack of evidence. Christiana tried to resist, but with the overwhelming evidence, the trial didn't take long. The verdict was handed down. She lost. She was ordered to pay back over 30 million. In the courtroom, Christiana collapsed. Even though she had severed ties with her parents, now their villa would be repossessed and auctioned off. Years ago, Christiana's family sold their old house to move into the villa, but now they had squandered the money. In other words, her parents would have nowhere to go. With over 30 million in debt, they couldn't even afford to rent a house. I ignored their pleas as I walked out of the courtroom. That night, I had once stood confidently in front of my friend, believing no one would ever abandon me. But now, looking back on everything that had happened over the past month, all the experiences boiled down to 2 words: human nature. After pretending to go bankrupt, I had left chaos in my wake. Everyone who had kicked me when I was down, none of them escaped. Everything they had taken from me would be repaid tenfold. This revenge wasn't over. It had only just begun.